again, and then turn around and be like,
I should have. Welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Hernandez. Joining you on the Number Fun USPSA podcast. Joining me tonight, he now identifies as an emotional support animal for the free air travel. It's Robert Wyatt.
Free air travel. Give me a hug. Everybody needs it.
Modern problems require modern solutions. He was told for the last time, you can't camp in the Del Taco bathroom. It's Jared Stepp.
No. It's not the Del Taco. It's the Burger King bathroom.
Oh, dude, we went to.
We had that happen once, and we ended up gassing the shit out of a guy who was shooting at a bunch of cops from the Burger King bathroom in Magna, and it was beautiful.
There's no
we had
better
a guy
place
do that in California. Like my son went into like the McDonald's bathroom, and he like he walks in there. I see the door shut, and immediately Dakota, he's like, at the time he's like 10 years old. He comes like running out, and he's like, Dad, there's a guy camped out in the bathroom.
Yep.
What? So I walk in there with him, and no shit. There's a homeless dude in the handicapped stall. He's got his entire life built up in there. And I'm like, why in the hell have they not kicked that dude out?
I got to tell you,
like, are you selling anything? Like, do you have wares? What is this?
Step into my shop.
I imagine the perfect use case for CS gassing somebody is like, where are they at? A Burger King bathroom with no windows and poor ventilation. Oh, thank God. Like you would just clunk in there and just tie the door shut. It's like, give it like 6 minutes. It'll be done.
No,
It'll be medium well.
The funniest part, he tied himself into the bathroom, and he made it so we could not go inside, and we couldn't approach to do an explosive breach on the door because he was shooting at us, and we couldn't see him, so we couldn't shoot back. So we just filled that bathroom to like high heaven with gas. And then he actually got really mad about it afterwards because he wanted to get out and not get gassed anymore. But he had tied it in there so good. He was stuck in there.
He could untie his way out.
He couldn't.
All I'm
going to
say is think about this
like,
for a second. Okay, let's harken back to Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. And Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon get stuck in that room, and then they go and they throw the gas in there. Why did the Trade Federation or not just leave him there for a long effing time? Eventually the problem solves itself, and then we don't have to deal with all the other fan fiction shit.
Listen, we don't know the exact time that was in there, but we know that they had to establish it's the one thing about the Phantom Menace I forget everyone doesn't remember, because now we had this crazy stuff of how cool Jedis are, and then of course Rey ruined it all, like
most women.
Mm-hmm.
I like that reel. That's like strongest color lightsabers is like green lightsaber, Yoda, blue lightsaber, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, and then they like weakest lightsaber by color, and like there's the red, because when she's like the dark Rey is like Rey yellow, Rey green, Rey blue, Rey, and I was just like, I swear I've never been so hurt. Like, there's no story I hate more than, like, I'm just the greatest right off the bat. Look at these force powers I can do that no one else can ever do because I'm so special. And then when I found out she was Palpatine's granddaughter, I was just like, what does that mean? Palpatine at least worked for his shit. Like, he was, like, cutting people's throats and backstabbing people, but the one thing about the Phantom Menace.
Go ahead, Phantom
Menace. The Phantom Menace is, like, we saw old men and young boys try to be Jedi, and I think everyone forgets the excitement when they saw the Phantom Menace for the first time, and like, Jedi are bad mother effers. Like, they stayed in that chamber for like 10 minutes, then they come out and they get the dicing, and they're just absolutely like, I wish Phantom Menace was rated R and they were cutting up actual people. You imagine if they step out of that place and just dice 17 guys to bits, you'd be like, dude, these are the coolest dudes ever.
These guys fuck.
Because they come out of there, they slice everything. Obi-Wan does a backward stab that deflects a blaster bolt into a droid. And then when the droid Dakars show up and start shooting at him, you see them force run. And then the next time you see them do like a 40-yard jump down to the ground, and you're just like, these guys are freaking amazing.
Which is crazy because they had all these skills, and then by the time episode 4 showed up, they're treating the lightsabers like they're claymores.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're more baseball bats.
That's really weird.
But
I
remember,
can't figure that out.
The first 3 are still better than the last 3, and it only had 40 years to get better.
No, God no.
Also, Joe, this is the part where I introduced Kenny Terry. Just to introduce. You look. This is how bad the new ones are. You look back on the prequel with absolute fondness. Everyone likes Hayden Christensen again because the new ones are so bad.
That's because he's awesome.
Joining us tonight,
dude, Jar Jar Binks.
Listen,
your entire argument is invalid.
Listen, he'll admit the basement was his, but the meth lab was not. It's Kenny Terry.
Goddamn right. I didn't know that thing was up there.
This is Taylorsville. There's a meth lab in every other basement. How am I supposed to check that place?
I have an outside entrance to the basement. I don't check it very often.
It's even worse.
It's a cocaine lab.
I was in Kearns on a call-up for 10 hours the other day because two kids kept shooting at people.
I loved it. When Jared first came to my house, he just was like, God, this is a familiar neighborhood. He's like, oh, yeah, I shot a guy right down there. I was like, great news. Thank you.
I personally didn't, but we did. It was an old guy with a revolver who came out and was shooting at us, and so he got shot.
I thought that was the FBI, and they shot that guy down in like. Yeah, I thought that was somebody else.
The federal government only likes shooting people while they're horizontal in their beds. Remember that. That's the
or when their wife opens up the screen door to try to see what's going on, then they
no, Robert, no. They have to have a baby in their arms to do that first. Duh.
Oh, that's right.
Duh.
A baby or
you
a
gotta
dog.
have a baby in your arms to get shot by
That's not a baby, it's a claymore.
It's
that baby's got a gun.
So just a heads up, like for everyone who knows the show and follows the show for a long time, like I have not spent an entire year shooting a gun. I've shot like a 17 for a little bit, but I've completed a year shooting this Gen 3 17 frame with Brownell slide and Leupold Delta Point Pro. And the final review after about 15,000 rounds is like this thing slaps. This thing has been an absolute gem. And so,
how many other guns did you shoot this year?
I shot my 17 for the Glock match that we shot, and I think I shot
that Canic for a day or two.
I shot the Canic
for a couple.
The HK, I shot the HK 45 for one match, and I shot the Canic for 2 matches.
The MP5.
I shot the MP5 for a match.
For half of a match.
For half of a match.
I think what really matters is Tom's only shot a gun for a year, and he's had some really good finishes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Tom's a damn good shooter.
Yeah,
he's
I thought
a
he
better
was
shooter if he stays with the Glock.
It's amazing what you can do with the oldest thing that is so old in the safe, and what you can do with like the Brownell slide and barrel has been 100% functional, and I keep all the stock parts in it.
Do you realize? I mean, I'm just looking at that gun, but the only OEM part on that gun looks like the frame at this point.
The frame is OEM. It's got the silicone carbide job. I got a Magpul Magwell on that just for the fun. It kind of sucks because these old Gen 3s have this moon cutout grip, and so you just bounce the front of the magazine in there.
So I have a question on that. I don't understand that moon clippy thingy.
So there's certain people who like it a lot. Like I like it without it, but the whole point was to pry the magazines out.
Strip magazines.
Yeah. So you remember like. The other ones, they had enough of the base pad that you could grip the base pad on the later Gen 3s and the Gen 4s and pull them out. And then when they went to the Gen 5s and made the Magwell, they're like, how are we going to strip this bad boy out? And so that they had the front cutout on the original Gen 5s. They sealed that up because people hate them because they bobble reloads. And so that original cutout in the back of your Glock where you would put like the dust cover or the grip plug, that's also in there so you can get a thumb in there to help strip out a magazine. And
was that uniquely a problem?
It is uniquely a problem. Well, for the original non-steel line magazines that would get stick, I could see where you would kind of design that into guns. But
isn't that all of the Magpuls? Because they're not steel lined, are they?
They are not steel lined. Yeah, the injection molding technology is much better than it used to be.
I got you.
I also think it's just a general rule of thumb for a duty gun. It's a good thing to have, is the ability to strip the magazine out, to actually get on there and rip it out, because if it gets stuck during a double feed or whatever you may have,
you want to be able to reach in there and
you want to be able to strip it out aggressively.
The Beretta 92s with the whoever came up with the contract for them to use a Parkerized finish on the inside and outside of the magazines, which then you go to the desert planet of Tatooine and go fight the global war on terror. And those things would jam up.
The Sand People?
Yeah, and then they had the...
I thought we called them something else.
They had the lanyard...
Tusken Raiders.
They had the
yes, that's it. Tusken Raiders.
They had the lanyard loop on the bottom of the magazine, but you could not physically get to the grip to rip them out. And so I think we are all... We sometimes have things left on the guns that probably don't have a purpose for them now, but like... What would happen if you stripped out a 1911 floor plate out of the gun on an old 1911 magazine, Kenny?
Oh, you'd have a rough time getting that tube out.
Yep. The floor plate will pull off of that thing and eject everything out of it.
If you had to get that mag out, I mean, what would you do? I mean, I guess you could jam your thumb in there and try and friction rip the magazine out at that point, but boy, that'd be tough. Without tools.
And the other part is too, is like the way that we can bend magazines and form sheet metal to give itself some like lips and ridges for a floor plate, and how we connect floor plates nowadays with the molding technology for the bottom that connects to the floor plate is way better than we used to have. They used to just weld the bottom of the magazines on, and like they're welded on, and then when they unweld, it's not good. It's like then you're trying to pull or do something out there, but there's plenty of things that are left on these guns, but I'll tell you, fantastic. And Robert recommended the Delta Point Pro like 3 years ago in the 6 MOA, and
still happy?
I don't know why I would change it. I find them to be, I know the SRO is great, I know there's a lot of good optics, but Gen 3
Kenny's 100% correct, man. There's everybody's always talking about, oh, I got the SIG, I get this, and I'm like, yeah, but the SRO keeps ticking. If the Delta Point keeps ticking, use that. I mean, reliability is 10 times more valuable than whatever the latest whiz bang optic there is. And remember, for the longest time, I mean, Delta Point was considered the gold standard. It was the only thing that actually worked. Not on my guns, but I mean, it was the only thing that worked for most people.
Yeah.
And the 6 MOA solved all the problems that came with the 2.5.
Yep.
Was it 2.5 or 3.0? I don't remember.
2.5.
But it solved all those problems. And honestly, it's a great optic. It just sits higher than the SRO, and the SROs are cheap to me, so
it's tall for convenience. And the Apex trigger.
Wow.
The Apex trigger is a traditional Glock style trigger, and it's made by very reputable people, and I have not had a single problem.
What do you mean it's a traditional?
It's not a Timney or the Glock performance trigger. It works like a standard Glock trigger.
Oh, it's not a precock striker.
It's not a precock striker. So all the safeties are engaged. It's safe. It has a decent pull. It's got a great trigger shoe, and it reliably works the whole time. And so like a stock gun with reputable parts that have the parts from the factory all thrown together, like and a decent optic, like it can be. I do not think of gun problems and the mindset of just running, like Robert was kind of talking on the Patreon side about running the Prodigy stock. There is a stock kind of setup. Is when you have a mostly stock setup, there's nothing that happens because apparently there's a lot of people at the engineers and they made like 7 million of it and it works.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, screw that. Let's get that trigger down to 2 pounds.
Let's get that trigger. Let's get a screw in that trigger housing. Let's get that pre-travel out.
Yeah, let's do this.
So. Let's go.
Everybody likes to talk stock, but stock's not fun. Shoot.
Yeah, there's.
That's why the 2011 was built, so that you could change every single part out on it.
I would the one thing that I think that everyone's kind of lost the aspect of is why don't we change one part at a time, just for fun. Just for fun.
You can do that?
The $797 parts list that comes in there, and then you put it all in there, and then it's just like, well, why doesn't this work? It must be this. And most
that was the funny thing about the stock 2s when they first came out. Everybody's like, "Oh, the stock 2, it's so much better than the Shadow" at the time. And it's like, well, yeah, you spent $900 on the stock 2, and then you put another $600 of parts into it. It's like, well, you had to do that with the Shadow, and it's like, yeah, but it cost $600. It was slightly cheaper.
Yeah.
And your gun isn't drop safe anymore. Boom.
Take that.
That doesn't really matter.
I got to treat it with
Drop
respect
safe
because
only
it's
matters
equally
if you drop
dangerous
it.
to me.
Fair.
So, all right, what'd you guys get up to, Kenneth?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Kenneth.
I went to a concert Friday. Other than that, I worked all
What'd
week.
you go do?
What
Who'd you go
concert?
see?
1,000 Below and Census Failed. It's punk. I don't know if you guys listen to that music.
No, Art.
It reminded me how much I fucking hate downtown Salt Lake.
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
that's that once a month I go to a concert. I'm like, oh yeah, I still hate downtown Salt Lake.
Downtown Salt Lake is my least favorite place in Utah. You could ask me to go anywhere, I'd be like, absolutely fantastic. But when I got to think about walking around that homeless field, purple-haired, face tattoo, go find parking bullshit area of this state, like if you're like a really like a religious person and like all the like the church stuff is down there and they have like the general conference and they have the temple and they have all this church history stuff. It is literally, you could see it as some sort of like what would you say, diamond in the coal mine. It is a rough place to hang out with.
It's nothing like the rest of Utah, right? Like you go downtown Salt Lake and you're like, this is not Utah. Like this is.
Well,
that's the only time I feel like my truck's gonna get broken into.
That's what they say about a lot of places in California, right? I mean, like
your catalytic converter is gonna get cut off.
But no, there's a lot of great places in California, just not the major cities. It's
not
all major cities. I shouldn't say that.
It's bled into like a lot of places that I grew up in. I mean, we went down there this year, and Mike was like, "Why is the shampoo behind a glass lock case?" And it's just like, it's like you've officially reached the point. You've reached the point of what it is. So I
all I'm saying is that I just think if you just started shooting people, the problem would tend to solve itself.
I don't even think you need to go that far. I think they did pretty well when they just hooked up fire hoses and started spraying at people to get them to go away. I think that's.
I have this plan. It's a great plan. I just need for the laws not to apply. You don't have. I mean, we don't have to kill them. You just shoot their kneecaps off, and then they'll warn all of their buddies to stop doing it.
Well, then they have a problem leaving because they can't walk. Anyway, what'd you do?
Yeah.
What'd I do?
Yeah, what'd you do, Robert?
I got Eli sent me a whole bunch of bullets that had varying levels of antimony in them that we're doing some testing on.
Explain antimony to me.
Antimony, so a typical lead bullet mixture, a lead bullet by its nature, if you fire it out of a gun at a certain speed, the lead is too soft. So it's gonna cause deformation and other issues that the end user sees as like tumbling or major inaccuracy problems, leading of the barrel. And so they introduce things like tin and antimony because there's a certain hardness of lead. By the introduction of antimony and tin, it brings up the hardness level. By increasing the hardness level, it makes it so that the bullet can then travel more stably and not deform as quickly or as much. Mm-hmm. And when you're shooting a cast bullet, that becomes a bigger issue. If you go and if you surround it with a jacket, like a copper jacket, then you can run a super lightweight. You can run lead because the jacket is holding everything together. With the antimony, it brings up the hardness level to a point where it increases the accuracy. You reduce the tumbling and other issues. And so the balance is, and I can never remember exactly, but the kind of the standard is what's called hardball, which I think is like 92 4 and 4 or something like that, of 92 lead to 4 it's like 92-2-6. I don't know, there's a certain ratio. Basically it's this mixture of percentages of lead to antimony to tin, but hardball is considered the thing that everybody uses for a good effective bullet. The trick is to figure out, if you know that you're not going to be pushing certain velocities, you can put a little bit less of each one of those into it. And that's the question. is, can I put a little bit less, because it's going to save you money in the long run.
So like the cowboy action shooters, that's why they just put like 5% lead and 95% wax.
Pretty much. No, I mean that literally is it. I mean they're looking at it from that perspective, because they're not going to push the bullet that hard.
Right.
And the distances that they're going to push the bullet, they can run a much softer makeup.
They're pushing a bullet at 100 feet per second at 5 feet.
Yeah.
Like 12 years ago, I had used some of these Bumblebee bullets, and they were really quality bullets, and I loaded them with tight group, and I looked at like, I want the max charge. I want this to, like when I was like, there's going to be a steel match. I want to make sure I knock down the steel, like that kind of thinking. And so you go back there and you charge it, and then you're just like, this stuff shoots an 11-inch group at 10 yards. It's just like, yes, because even if there's a quality lead bullet, you can still press it down the barrel in a form and under pressure where it will deform.
So you actually bring this up. So as a funny thing, and so in some of these testing, you'll go from a group like at 20 yards, you'll go from a fist-sized group at 20 yards to the entire USPSA target and still have misses.
Yes.
Using the same exact configuration. You're like, what the F is going on? This can't be happening. And then so when I do it, I bring out multiple guns. So I brought my Prodigy, I brought 2 of my Shadows, just trying different things. I'm like, just to make sure that it's not the gun itself. And you're like, okay, there's some noticeable issues. And so you go back to the drawing board and you kind of start playing with your mixtures a little bit to try and find the most optimal. And since I, as a general rule, like the stuff that I shoot, the 147 that I was testing was coming out at 149, basically 150 power factor, which is kind of the far edge of what you're ever going to use, whatever competitive shooters are ever going to go and shoot those things at. And so that gives you some data. Because if you push them too slow, if you run them too slow, then you have other issues. The bullet doesn't actually properly stabilize. There's always this balance that goes into it.
Yep.
But yeah, I did that all weekend. I took the Prodigy out and reminded myself how much I actually really, really like this gun. For the longest time, it's funny, like I've liked 2011s. I think they're great guns. And then you have one, you actually put one in your hands and you shoot one. You're like, oh yeah, there's a reason people like these guns. They're just incredibly fun guns to shoot. You can build them to everything you want. And for so long, I bought the Prodigy with this idea of like how little can I do to this gun and actually make it an effective gun. And I was talking about on the Patreon side, Kenny sent me that Mitchell mag release for the right hand side that MPA is making, which apparently doesn't work for a Prodigy.
Hold on a second.
We'll make it work.
We'll make
it work.
This is the one thing that I don't get. But don't you shoot your Shadows with an index finger release of the magazine release? Like you don't move them over. You move them over to your left hand side thumb.
They're always flopped over to what would be the right hand side of the gun.
Okay, all right.
That's one of the big things that as soon as because I learned how to shoot with the magazine release properly on the left hand side where you expect it should be.
Yep.
But when I first started shooting, that really was the only thing. I mean, it was really kind of revolutionary that Springfield had this XD where it had like a both side magazine release. And I started with a Glock 19 that was a Gen 3, so it was on the left-hand side. And when the Gen 4 came out and it was on the right-hand side, I was like, oh, that's stupid. Why would I ever do it? And then I flopped it over and I'm like, oh,
wow,
it's
why
quicker.
would I never not do this?
This is better. Wow.
Yeah, so, yeah. And it's hard I can go either way. It's not really a big issue, but it is nice just to have your thumb, boom, and it's out.
Yeah,
I just like that.
Because
you are shifting your grip just a little bit when you manipulate it with a left-hand grip.
The one thing about the lead bullet conversation to go back is like you have to understand, like lots of people who get into shooting are very attracted to the lead bullets or in some of the coated bullets because of the cost effectiveness as it is, but they are not the beginner's bullet. Like you could buy a perfectly good bullet, and your selection of powder and your loading and your reloading setup could not do it. And honestly, you will probably waste more money in poor performance because of the quality of the bullets and malfunctions that you would have in matches than you would save money if you just bought a full metal jacket off the bat. If you're going to reload lead bullets, please seek the information that goes into the kind of powders that you should be using and how to load them before you go out there and load them, because it saves the manufacturer's time and it saves your time because the manufacturer didn't do anything wrong. It's most of the time it's the shooters, and I think we all go through that lead bullet phase or soft bullet phase, and then we just realize that we've done something terribly wrong.
And that's 100% correct. I mean, like, ideal, probably, if I was to guess, I would say 95% of the customer support issues that I deal with regard to Gallant bullets is basically taking the individual through the process far enough for them to understand, oh, this is what I was not doing for this type of bullet versus the jacketed that I started with. And once they understand that, they're like, oh, the problems all went away. And it's like, yep, they're just different. Little tiny differences make all the differences.
Yep,
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so how many people are, not belling enough or over crimping or something like that on cast bullets or ruining them?
100%. The vast majority of people, exactly what you said, Kenny, they take their entire 650 setup for a jacketed bullet, and they think they can dump a coated or a cast bullet straight into it, and it's like, no, they've got to have a lot more flare by comparison.
Well, that's the one thing too. It's like, and your powder dye that's doing the flare might not be the right powder dye to do it, because it might not flare deep enough into the case to actually seat the bullet in there, because it'll just give you kind of an edge flare. The other thing that's kind of interesting about it too, it's oh shoot, I entirely lost my train of thought. Never mind, I'm dumb.
That never happens.
No,
but no, it's good. It's fun to talk to people, and I always tell this, but you can always tell, because they always come in. They're like, there's something wrong with your bullet. Hey, not a problem. Let's figure this out. Emails back and forth, and you can always tell when they figure out that it was them, because the emails stop.
Ha.
Yeah.
Like, ha ha ha.
Well, here's a question. So you're saying you cannot do, if you have your, let's say, Dillon 650 set up for plated bullets, and then you go and you get a lead bullet with a coating, and if you just don't change anything, there might be some issues, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you go the other way?
Yes.
What if you had everything set up for lead bullets, and then you go grab some Everglades? Do you need to change anything?
Unless if you're doing everything right with the lead or the coated bullets, you don't need to change anything. If you're doing something wrong, like the over crimping, like that would be something that you would, obviously, if it was wrong with one, it'd be wrong with the other. But generally, the full metal jacket or like plated bullets, you can get away with almost everything. The only thing you can't really get away with is velocity. You can't push those as hard because you'll still see the coating tear because it can't do it. But like a full metal jacket bullets are great because you're basically idiot proofed. In the way, like, unless you do something catastrophic that will blow up every gun, you could load them poorly and get moderate accuracy. You could load them poorly and get moderate reliability. And it's a lot of times with people's problems when they first start reloading, is that they think the reason why an action happens is for the wrong reason. Like, crimp is not there to hold your bullet in under extreme pressures if it got pushed down on your nose. Like, crimp is to remove the belling, and it should be straight and it should be flat. The best thing you can do is
but take that to the next step in the logical conclusion. Why do we crimp and put the bullet back? It's because these cases 9mm 40-45, they headspace off of the case mouth.
Yep.
And that's what you're trying to do. So when you go and you taper crimp that all the way in, you're starting to introduce problems. If you have the bullet seated way too long, it's now headspacing off of the lands and grooves in the barrel. You need the headspace correct so that the case mouth is properly sitting up against the chamber.
I mean, a case gauge and some high quality factory ammo. If your crimp does not look like the factory ammo, or your length looks incredibly short or incredibly long versus the same type of factory ammo, you might be...
No.
Well,
no, that's actually not true either.
They're bullet type. That's right, like the bullet type. If you have a completely different bullet type, then you can run into problems. But
yeah, you're close on that. The biggest challenge you have whenever you load a bullet is, I mean, you have most of the modern bullets that you buy from a factory, they're going to have a much stronger ogive, basically the shoulder that's coming up, because they have to then fit into every single gun.
Much more tapered,
they're a lot more
tapered,
much more tapered.
Yeah.
Whereas traditional cast bullets, they're going to have it's going to come straight, and then the ogive is going to be less, so you then have to run them a whole lot deeper. That's actually a big problem that a lot of people run into. They're like, I'm trying to set this thing at the 1.140 or some crazy number that it says in the Lyman book, and it's like, well, guys, that's not how. And honestly, all of these are just little things, and most people. I always tell people this: if you could bake a cake, you can reload bullets. And for most people, it's just little tiny things like, hey, have you tried this? Just try these little things. And if you don't have somebody that's like gone down that road ahead of you, then you'll learn it eventually. But it's a whole lot easier if you have a friend that says, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. Let's get you all set up and we'll do this together. If you have that, it solves a lot of problems. But for a lot of people, it's just little tiny pieces of ignorance. And the challenge with reloading is, I've always said, there's 3 types of loaders in the world. There's competition loaders, there is hunters, and then there's long range precision. And funny enough, those 3 worlds have very different and unique ways that they load that are very specific to what they want to do. And it's not that anyone is right or wrong.
One of them are good loaders.
What's that?
I said, realistically, only one of them are good loaders.
Which one would that be?
The long range.
The long range. Well, okay. Let me counter to that.
Oh no.
Long range they're exceptionally good loaders. They're very detailed. They're very precise. Why? Because the accuracy requirement of a long. This is also true. The long range guys, they have to have accuracy on the far end of the spectrum, like autism. But if you're shooting competition pistol, like practical pistol, where does your accuracy fall off? I mean, 25 yards is effectively kind of where we end 90% of our target engagement, right? So the amount of precision that has to go into a competition, just hit the mic, that has to go into a precision setup isn't really as big of a deal compared to the long range precision guys. You have to be a lot more exacting into your things, and it's not that anything's right or wrong. It's just interesting.
Well, the reason I say long range loaders are better loaders is they actually understand every process of the loading system because they have to. Whereas pistol loaders, most of them don't understand what they're doing. They're just like, yeah, I read online that this is what I need to do and this is what I'm gonna jam it in. Like, go ask. There's 100 people to match. Go ask them what their maximum COAL is. 98 of the 100 won't have a fucking clue.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like it's like the goal is like how many pistol loaders have you run into that go like I just read this in a book so I made 2,000 of them. It's like go with God.
But the flip side of that, Kenny, though, is that the long range guys, they take all of that information and they then try to apply it to a competition loadout, and they start talking about like their bullet comparator and like how much jump on the over, and you're like, that doesn't matter in this case. I mean, it's like it's information, but
does it not matter? Because I think in a pistol, knowing your jump still does matter because that's when you're running into if you change bullets or you jam them in the lands now. Same as if you're going from talking about your ogive. If nobody actually checks what your maximum cartridge length is, bullet to bullet, they're creating problems because there are inefficiencies in their loading system.
No, my point is, I mean, like they want to get down to like this, this 5,000th offset of the jump, but in a pistol configuration, the accuracy fall off is at 25 yards, and the bullet's going to be accurate to that point. And there's a certain point where you're just putting too much energy into creating a bullet that is going to be accurate, whether it's at a 5,000th jump or a 10,000th jump or something like that.
The detail comes at the cost of production.
I absolutely agree. Like when I load my pistol ammo, I'm lazy as shit. The reason I'm saying long range shooters are better reloaders is they actually know what they're doing.
Well, right. I think it's
like most pistol shooters don't actually know what every step of the reloading process is doing or what they should be looking for. They're doing it just because somebody told them to do that.
Okay.
Versus, I think average long range shooter actually understands the reloading process better.
Well, I'm with you there. That makes sense.
I think reloading is the perfect case for stacking tolerances.
Yeah.
Right, and I think we talk a lot about stacking tolerances is a lot of issue, but we don't talk it about in pistol loading. And the one thing about being a detail-oriented person and trying to make everything match is that you are eliminating the stacking tolerances that can happen over the wide range of production. And I think a lot of people don't understand what they see where it is in the reloading guide, but then fail to try to make all those tolerances work with the equipment that it's trying to go into. They just see it and they do that, and then when you get into a
That is
precision
true.
reloading part,
Yeah.
like they talk, like it talks about what it's going to affect in the barrel of your gun, where you're actually engaging, where the jump is, and how it's going to sit there and feed.
Yeah, I tell you, I thought it was a good reloader until I got into long range, and I was like, I don't know anything.
Right. I would say I'm a very good example of a competition reloader for pistol, because I have no clue what I'm doing. All I did was I tried to do it by myself, failed miserably, called Robert. Robert came over. Robert said, fix, sets up the reloader correctly. I haven't changed the setting
It
in
just
like 8
stays
years.
at that.
It has stayed. Sometimes I change powder things because I like to live dangerously. Then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do 4.5 grains a type group. I'll go back down to 3.9. And that's it. Like, I have no clue what anything's happening. I have a light. I've never had a squib. I look at things aggressively, and I mean, but I don't know what anything's happening. Like, I know that this one does this to the thing, and then the next one I put the bullet, and then the next one it does this. So it's like this. I think there's a lot of competition shooters who are just in that same boat. They're like, I don't know, I did this just for money. I don't want to invest any education into this.
Yeah. No, Kenny, that, I mean, when you say it that way, that does make a lot of sense. I mean, they definitely
wrong.
No. I just agree with you. I mean, I think it makes sense. You're kind of forced to know a lot more to get the accuracy and the end result fundamentally that you're really going for.
Yep. I mean, I think there's plenty of people who shoot a pistol like a Glock or a Beretta, and then they get themselves their fancy CZ, and they're just like, man, these bullets get caught in this shit all the time. What is wrong with this? I think it's the bullet. If you would have bad ammo, put it in your gun, and then hang that pistol on a Precision's holster, fast holster. Use promo code PARA10, because you know what that Precision holster's hanging off of? It's hanging off of a Dominate Defense belt, because if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. Check them out. You can get their fancy concealment belt from the Tier 1 concealment belt from Tier 1 Concealment. You can also check out all their fantastic products at DominateDefense.com. Use promo code PARA10, save 10% off. And then also our friends over at W74 Guide Rods. Make it thick. 2 C's, 3 C's if you're feeling nasty, and Rune Tactical, where you can get an extra, I guess it would be 3% more ammo in your gun. Check them out. Use promo code PARA10 at each one of those, save 10%. Also, you can go over to Telegram, and you can fight with Taylor Dags over Classifiers and ask us questions.
From our good friend Alex Went. Robert, how many rounds have you shot through your Prodigy? Has it been reliable? Are you going to try it in limited optics? I don't have that many rounds through it. I think I only have about 500, a little bit less than 500 at this point. Most of it's just been testing, trying to get it figured out. When I first got it, it was very much unreliable, and then Kenny helped me out a lot and with the extractor and stuff like that. And then now it's been running great. Am I going to try it in limited optics? I don't know. I actually don't know.
We're gonna tune that baby up.
I want to go and shoot it, and it kind of just depends on what the winter looks like, because I'm either going to shoot this gun, or honestly, if the snow flies really bad, I may shoot PCC like with my 45, because I just hate dropping mags. Kind of dumb, but I've actually thought about that, and I just happen to like 45.
You're not going to come out in the winter when it's actually cold anyways.
Just buy 170 mags for the Prodigy and shoot it in open.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. I love this gun. I mean, it's everything we talked about. It's an absolutely fun gun. And if we can get that magazine release figured out, that's I think it'll be pretty cool. I've got that Hollow Sun, the 507 comp on there, and the jury is still kind of out on that. If I'm trying to take a precision shot on it, there's just enough of like information of the circle and that dot in there.
The 8 MOA circle. Which circle? Because there's 17 on that freaking thing for no damn good reason.
I don't like it.
It's the smallest circle
the 8 MOA
with the dot
circle,
inside of it.
Yeah, the 8 MOA with the dot.
And I have another SRO that I may just throw on this thing just to see. I'm still playing around with the idea of having another one of my shadow slides milled by Impact, because I've really appreciated that. But I may just like this. I'm probably going to throw the SRO on the Prodigy and then shoot that a bunch. And if I do that, then I'll buy another SRO and throw that on the new slide.
Yeah, I 0 to 507 comp. I would tell you that the single 2.5 MOA dot is much more preferable than the 8 MOA circle around it. Like, we've all shot small dots before. You can bloom them. They can do pretty well. They're bad if you have an astigmatism, but there's something about busyness of looking. It's not so much it's looking inside of something to find something else. It's like I do not want to look inside the reticle to find what I'm shooting at.
Well, here's kind of the I guess the pushback on that. When I'm actually shooting stages, I'm trying to never actually see a dot. I want to be shooting the streak a lot more.
The flash of the color should send it.
And in a lot of those situations, it doesn't matter what the dot is. It's more there's an impression that there is that red right there, yes. And I'm trying to pull the trigger and use that information. So it's functionally letting the dot or the streak or whatever to tell you a story on what it's doing. And that larger dot size, when it's moving and when I've just kind of like just been shooting a little bit, it becomes less of an issue than I actually think about. When I'm standing on the line and I'm actually looking down and I'm trying to, like this week when I was trying to actually get some really good accuracy to test all those bullets, I'm like, oh, this is kind of annoying. And I don't like this. And you definitely don't get that pinpoint accuracy. Because if you put a 1-inch paster out at 20 yards, that 8 MOA, that's covering the entirety of the thing up. It's just forget about it. But I don't know. It's really interesting. I just don't know. I think I would probably take it to a bunch of my indoor matches, shoot it around a bit, see what I think. And if I like it, great. The biggest thing that I hate about the 507 comp more than anything is how ugly the damn reticle looks. I cannot stand that boxy thing. I think it is aesthetically unpleasing. The window. Sorry. I hate the frame on that thing. It does not look good on a gun. It just looks like crap. It probably would belong on a Glock better because Glocks are already blocky, but for some reason, I like the curves. It's dumb. It makes no sense. I know.
A man
I just
knows
like
what
the curves.
he wants.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would translate the 507 comp reticle to, it's like looking at a you could understand a street sign just by the look of what the shape and the color of that street sign is, and that's kind of like a dot. And the 507 comp is like reading the signs on the side of the road. Like you have to, like you look when you're standing still and you're trying to actually read what it says, it just feels like you're reading it. But if you're just driving by, it's fine. It's just kind of one of those weird things.
Right. Let's see. Steve's on the show. Is Steve gonna shoot carry optics at some point? Yeah, he said he's gonna shoot it next year.
Next year, he basically was just like, all right, it's time. Like 2 years after me, Steve is basically like, all right, it's time. It's time to do it. So
functionally, what happened was Steve actually went into the ophthalmologist, and the ophthalmologist was like, look, your LASIK's no longer holding. You're gonna need to start wearing bifocals. And Steve's like, F that noise. I don't want to be in super senior category. So it's like, I'll do carry optics now.
Yeah, he had to switch. He's been having to switch glasses before he shoots the stage. He has his walking around set, and then he has his shooting set. So yeah, I think we're getting. I think the universe is converging him to get a dot.
I tell you this much. That is probably one of the best things that have helped like older shooter eyes is putting those dots on there. It's taken a lot of people who otherwise would have given up the hobby and sport and allowed them to keep going like well beyond where their eyesight traditionally would have failed them. And that's just fantastic. I think that's an amazing thing about optics. Let's see, from Jeff Smith, what's the process to recall an area director? And if there isn't one, how can we establish that process?
Well, we know that there's a process to remove them from the financial committee.
Yeah.
All they got to do is ask Ted.
Looking at you, Leighton.
All they got to do is ask Ted not to be president anymore, and there's no retaliate. Listen, it's all a bunch of guys above board, not retaliating about anything, just going about the business of USPSA.
I thought the process to remove an area director is to get his RO certification pulled.
Oh wait, yeah, that doesn't work. If you're in the good old boys club, also known as Leighton is protecting you, it doesn't work like that. the thing that's so strange about this is there's this part of you that like you look at the national organization and you want to think that the organization is doing the right thing. That's because you want to. I mean, with all the drama in USPSA, I've always been telling people this. You have to want to believe that there is something good. Because if you don't, then just throw the whole thing away. There's nothing redeemable about it. And so you want to think that. And then they go and somebody makes a motion to remove the president for these reasons. And then according to the bylaws, they go into the member meetings, they go into executive session, come out of it, and the old board
executive session about things that should not be covered about executive session. Remember, that's always the crux. It's always like, just shut up, everybody.
They go into this executive session, come out of it, and immediately remove Scott Arnberg, who arguably is probably one of the smartest guys that actually knows what the F he's talking about when it comes to finances. They're like, yeah, we want you off the financial committee. I mean,
wait, this is new? They did a stupid thing again?
Yeah,
they last week or something like that.
Scott Arnberg, his entire profession is finance. He's a very smart finance guy. Like me and Robert, we talked to him and we had a pretty good conversation about the finances of USPSA and what they look like. And he, in the last meeting, called for the resignation and put up for a vote the resignation of Ted from being USPSA president. And of course, that got like 3 votes and got shot down by 6. And then immediately after, Scott was put up to vote to be removed as the financial chair, the chair of the financial committee, and that passed 6-3. So
yeah, it's like massive. Like how is that not just purely just blatant, out and out retaliatory actions? That's I mean, this is the problem with USPSA in general. It's just like USPSA. I mean, they basically, you could put like as the board of directors byline, we don't actually think beyond today, because everything they do is rife with unintended consequences. I mean, I can't remember. I think it was like the board or the organization through this whole fee increase fiasco between the time I did it and when another friend who did it just yesterday, I think they brought in like 312 some weird like $1,000. They bring in a shitload of money, and it's all very short-term gains, and they're going to use that, and it's effectively gone because they're so far in the hole right now. But they're doing that at the expense of the long term. Yep. But they're like, oh, we got all this money now, but now we've lost it because we can't run. And that's the other thing. Like they lost their tax ID. There was a part of me that was like, okay, well, people like I've had that happen where like the state and everything, it failed to get renewed. The state's like, hey, cool, not a problem. We'll just get it renewed. It was easy. It was a simple thing. Well, apparently Delaware is the same thing, because when they lost that name, Delaware actually has the same like with Utah, where they have like 3 years where they'll just keep it on. After 3 years, they're like, okay, yeah, this company's officially gone, and now we'll go and wipe it out. So when they lost it in 2018, functionally, that means they lost it in 2015 when they stopped paying for it. And that sort of begs the question, who's actually running things in USPSA? I don't know. That's weird.
Well, it's not like they could hire a CPA or something to stay on top of that. That'd be ridiculous. Next question.
Yeah, let me find this here. Scrolling.
Finger update, Jared. Scrolling. Finger update.
Scrolling. Oh yeah, how's your finger?
That looks terrible.
It's good.
YouTube's gonna pull this off the thing. That thing looks like nasty. It's not in a cast anymore, but it's still broken, right?
Yeah, it's getting better. I mean, I can do stuff now, and I'm at full work capacity. They told me just not to punch anyone, and I was like, it's like left hand. I'm fine. So,
it's all haymakers, never a jab with Jared. Never a jab, all haymakers.
Yeah.
Show them that cross.
All right,
but yeah, it's alive. It's good. We're surviving, and I'm going to shoot a match next week. Hooray!
Hooray!
Yay! Actually, how is that match coming?
Cop match?
The copper match, yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing the UPOA multi-gun next week, and I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's going well. I'm doing the money stuff for it, and we have a couple $1,000s of money to buy random prizes, and so I've been doing that all last week, and I'm going to be doing that next week. But they're building on Tuesday,
right?
Which seems like a terrible choice to me. but whatever. Colby said he's busy this whole weekend, so he couldn't do it any other day. So he's building Tuesday at noon, and then polishing on Wednesday, and then staff match on Thursday, and main match
stages?
On Friday. 10.
Ooh. They're going to get 10 3-gun stages
starting the work day at noon to do that much work.
Sounds like
I don't
know.
Anyways,
Colby's a hard worker. Let's see.
Have to be.
Yeah. Actually, what are you guys doing for your stats and stuff like that? Did Dan get them all hooked up and everything?
Hot pod, everybody. Hot pod.
I believe I'm going to be doing them.
On the plus side, the election's over
so
as
Jared
of yesterday,
wins,
so you don't have to make
Jared
people,
wins.
Sign your petition.
If you want to come help out, Robert, that'd be swell.
What day?
If you don't want to, that's fine too.
What day is it? Thursday?
Staff is Thursday, main match Friday.
And the reason they can have that during a weekday is because they're all public employees, and public employees can do whatever the F they want on weekdays.
Well, it's because they're busy on weekends.
Correct.
Here's a good question. When you're not allowed to carry at events / large crowds, how does that make you feel, and what do you think about it?
I think more about how I'm hiding my gun.
Yeah, that's kind of my impression. I mean, like, if I'm there, it's not a gun-free zone. It's kind of...
The vigilance definitely goes up, especially if you're in places too where like they don't even want knives or they have the metal detectors. That kind of is a pain in the ass.
Well, there's a solution for that though, Tommy. As you know, as somebody who loves Die Hard, Glock 7.
I got it.
It's all ceramic.
I got a freaking. Well, the problem is it costs more than I make in a month, so I just still haven't been able to purchase the Glock 7. But it's nice having something that's like, once again, like the OC spray. You can have that. They defeat every detector. They give you at least something to go for if you're in an area that even checks you for knives and other equipment, because it literally just passes through. I'm also looking for that rabbit's foot gun that was in the what is the Clint Eastwood movie, In the Line of Fire?
In the Line of Fire.
In the Line of Fire.
That was impressive.
Yep. That it didn't blow I think it was a 45 ACP, if I remember, or something like that. Like a big bullet, and it's like it's a plastic barrel. It's like that's just gonna blow up, dog.
Well, now they got those plastic knives made of that, whatever that material is. Yeah. Those things are pretty legit.
Unless you need to sharpen them or move anything out, they'll chip.
Well, that's why they're plastic. Then you just, I mean.
Well, they're not made for working. They're made for being stabbed into someone's throat once.
Shiv.
Yeah, 20,000 federal prisoners in the prison system can attest to the validity of the effectiveness.
I actually have a funny story.
The Colgate.
I have a funny story about this incident, because I went to a concert once and I wasn't thinking. I had my gun. I have everything that I.
Did you throw it in the bushes like Bob Vogel?
No. This is way better. So I have a flashlight in my left pocket, my Glock appendix carried, and then a small pocket knife in my right pocket. And I go through the metal detector, and I'm like, oh shit, oh well. And they had two different metal detectors. Apparently, there's like a general metal detector, then a more specific one, and I failed both of them, obviously. And they called the manager over, and I take out the knife in my right pocket, and I'm like, dude, this is all I got. Are you serious? I have to go back. And I talked to him for a bit. And he's like, it's fine, man. Just put it in your pocket. Don't take it out. All right. I'm like, all right, thanks, bro. And then I just walked on. And I'm like, should I have told him about the gun?
Jared may or may not flash his badge.
Didn't even have to.
I stuck in like 3 pocket knives.
I was a smooth talker.
Do you know how many knives I've lost in trash cans at concerts? You lucky bastard. I've never been able to keep one.
I'm very good at talking to people.
I mean, Kenny, you do look like a bit of a thug.
All Kenny has to do is sit there and go. He has to go as like undercover, and they go like, "Oh, I gotcha." Kenny's got like enough like you look at him and go like, that guy might sell drugs, but then he's got that edge to him. He's like, that guy's a professional. He knows what he's doing. He's clean talking. He's a smart guy. Like if you whisper to somebody, "I'm undercover," 8 out of 10 times they'd believe you. And also, you can talk your way out of anything. You can talk your way out of anything with anybody making less than $21 an hour, because they don't want to be there. And so if you go, it's just a knife, they're going to go like, Yeah. All right. Whatever. Not my issue. Not my issue. Not my problem. Even though it's paid to be their problem. Robert.
Let's see. Next question. What are your winter off-season plans?
For me this year, it is going to be the most off season that you could ever off. So.
All right.
I'm
still gonna shoot something.
If I dry fire, I'll dry fire. If not, I won't.
I'm still debating. I don't know if I'm gonna fully go over to limited optics or just keep shooting Glocks. But I'm gonna be either doing carry optics and shooting my work gun, or shooting limited optics and shooting a fun 2011.
That he'll eventually sell 2 weeks later.
Hey, I've had this gun for years. I've only sold it once.
Purchase date.
Jarrett, my favorite gun. I don't even know where it is anymore.
Which one?
That 1911.
Oh, Tyrell has it.
Tyrell, the friendship. It's like trading ex-girlfriends. It's just like, where's she at? Where's she living nowadays? She's at Tyrell's house.
That 1911 become a town bicycle.
I shot all the bullets. You sold me with it, and then I was like, well, I don't want to do 45, and so I had like 500 bullets left, and I sold it to Tyrell.
Kenneth, the open experiment is that over?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Wintertime work should slow down, so I'll probably start shooting more again. I don't know what I'm gonna shoot yet.
Yay!
It'll be open, limited, or CO, or possibly LO if I. Yeah, we'll see.
We should all shoot limited optics.
Sure.
I did Friday. We were at the concert early, so I started, trying to talk the honey into a new 2011 for LO.
What would you get?
A Springfield. I like cheap guns, Jared. We've went over this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, just like my women, like them cheap.
I like a two Burger King tacos.
That and send that.
Kenny has a similar ideology as Tom, where if he beats the fancy guns with a poor man's gun, it's more of a flex.
It just means it's me. It just means it's me.
He enjoys beating guys with, I got this $10,000 Infinity, and Kenny's like, I have a $500 Springfield, and I just shit on your face. And Kenny loves it.
I don't care.
I gotta be honest, I do love that. But at the same time, I've never shot an Infinity that's like, this gun's worth $12,000.
Yeah. That's
like you shoot an STI True Bore, and then you shoot one of the new Infinities. You're like, $2,000, $12,000. They both shoot good groups, and they both go boom boom.
Yeah. I do like Taylor's. I like his 2011. I mean, it's that
Infinity looks nice, but you look at the price tag, and you're like,
did he get a limited optics gun?
No, it's just an open blaster, and it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful.
No,
both his and
nice.
Zach's are just great. And then you see how much they cost, and you're like, I don't think they're that great.
Yeah, I mean, other than supporting a terrible company, they're nice guns.
Well, the one thing that I kind of have just a manufacturing question about it is what makes it so different that those guns have to cost 500% more than your typical blaster. Like, I'm trying to think of like the manufacturing process of what could do it or what could hold that kind of pressure, or the magazine or whatever like that. Like I or the finish or anything like that. Like what does it, or is it that's what the market will bear, and so that's what they get, because open shooters will pay anything for that stuff.
From what I understand, and this was talking with Zach and looking at his open guns, and then he had that 9 major gun that I was playing with. The 9 major gun he had, it was a very basic build. It didn't have any of the crazy bling on it. It didn't have any of the crazy serrations, nothing just of the wild stuff that you normally see on the Infinities. And he said it was only like $7,000 or $8,000. And honestly, that's what most open guns, if you get a full tilt open gun with a metal grip, with all the like everything, most open guns that I'm seeing from custom builders are about $7,000 or $8,000. Obviously, the older STIs, you can get them for a hell of a lot cheaper. But I think a lot of it is just the Infinities, is that you can bling it out and you can have all those crazy serrations. You can have the crazy hydro cut or the dips and this.
So you're paying for the customization, essentially.
You're paying for 100% customization, not
that's fair. I mean,
gun itself.
USPSA.
Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong there.
Are anything if not like horribly, like, vain.
Peacocks.
I mean, that's why we have all these pretty holsters and like shirts and stuff like that. That's not a problem.
Infinities are tighter tolerances, right? Like, I'll give them that. Like, the slide to frame fit's a little tighter, barrel to slide is tighter. Like, their tolerance is a little bit tighter. To me, none of that matters. Like, we're not shooting accurately enough for it to really matter.
Well, it's not.
But yeah, they're mostly paying for how they look, and if people would get out of that and put that money into bullets and getting better, would make much more of a difference buying new guns.
Well, this isn't like a 1991 Morris 1911 where Morris sat there behind a table and took it out and made sure everything was and had the files out. Like Infinity,
you know why all these custom companies they want to go to limited optics with 9mm. Well, because they're easier to run them.
But it's not like the tighter tolerance. It's
the
like
actual skill level of the gunsmith is substantially less with a 9mm than trying to get everything perfect with a 40 Smith Wesson. Because a 40 Smith Wesson is a very violent reaction on a gun, and you have to have a good gunsmith to really put the thing together.
If we went to some of those open factories, I doubt there'd be the level of attention to the open guns that you would think that would be. Like, if you took us, like, how much does this guy get paid? He get paid $67 an hour. How much time does he spend on the gun? What is the cost of the raw parts? I think if we all did the math and pulled away from that thing, you would see a gun that has a very high profit margin built into it. Unlike
Can I respond to that?
Well, unlike like a Prodigy, which is probably the profit margin is probably 17 or 18 or 25% of what it actually costs to make a Prodigy.
Okay. Well, with respect to that comment, you're not paying for the parts. You're paying for the experience that I bring to the table.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Anybody can go and have somebody draw them a house up in 3dhousebuilder.com or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you come to me, you are functionally getting 33 years of experience on how to do something well.
Yeah, and
you can do something okay, and you can just look Prodigy. This is a good gun. It's a fantastic gun, and it's okay.
The machine does most of that gun.
There's little things that make this thing like work, and for most people, this is going to be great. But the difference between a Prodigy and an Infinity is the level of experience and technical understanding on how to make the Infinity great. Now, to be fair, there's probably a whole lot of what Jared said, the customization that goes into it, the little things, the little elements just make it so much better. And now, is that worth it? Well, that's a different discussion. But there's no doubt that there are gunsmiths out there that they are masters of their trade. And if you want to have something built and built extremely well, and you know what you're getting into, then you're going to pay for that experience.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, literally the cost and labor that goes into the gun, they're probably still making a 300% profit on the gun.
What I've always heard, and this could be 100% wrong because this was a high-end 2011 builder. He kind of explained it as this. He's like, dude, I make a full custom gun. By the time I am done making every single part, hand fitting every single part, doing all the testing, doing everything, I probably have 300 hours making this gun. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lower end gunsmith maybe will have 100 hours. Maybe, and then another guy, the staccatos, how long does it take to make a staccato? Maybe 10 hours, maybe 20 hours. Versus a Springfield, maybe 5 hours of hand fitting or whatever.
It's literally my argument.
Things that we have gotten to in the world today is because of the advances in CNC technology and the ability for computers to really, really precisely cut and manufacture things. Right. That level of gunsmith, where they were hand fitting everything to the nth degree and spending lots of hours, obviously that's gone down. We don't have that same level, and that's the Prodigy, right? They're like, oh, it's made of MIM parts. Well, the MIM parts are actually a lot better than they were 10 years ago. Are they the best? Of course not. I'm not trying to say they are, but they're better.
That's why Morris 1911 back in 1991 still cost you $2,000. And what a lot of these companies did is they do a non-custom experience, and they charge you custom rates.
Fair.
Well, that's Atlas.
Anyways,
I mean, how many? There's only a handful of gun builders right now that are actually building themselves.
Them. Yes.
I mean, Eddie is doing it. Rafferty. I don't even think Infinity's doing it. There's only a couple out there that he is building the gun.
Yeah.
And most of those are.
I would say
what is building? I mean, for a 1911 or a 2011 platform, what is? Gosh, how do I say this? Basically,
Like
what is building the
oversized.
gun? What exactly is the building? Because I mean, I built an AR-15. No, I put a bunch of parts together and they all just worked, right? I assembled it. So where does the building actually take place? Does that make sense?
Like when you yourself are hand fitting the parts,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is building a gun.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
I think a lot of these big companies,
they are oversized.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these big companies, they're just mass producing parts, and they're going,
Mhm.
all right, this one doesn't fit, this one doesn't fit. Oh, these ones fit fine.
These ones fit.
Atlas.
It's like when you don't know what you're doing with the Glock trigger, so you find the trigger bar and the striker that actually work together instead of manipulating the parts to fit
Fair.
as they're supposed to do. Like that's essentially what you're doing. Now you can always ask for tighter tolerances from anything, and that's just a go no go process. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of parts. Like I do understand in the 1970s and 80s in the PPC and the speed shoot challenges that those guys in early USPSA, like when those guys bought their slab sided 1911 and sent it off, there was a reason that stuff cost $2,000 because a guy was sitting there for a year going through and filing, removing material, parts fitting, and making sure that thing kind of came together and worked. I don't think we're getting that, but I think the price points show that. But if you sell it for cheaper than people are willing to pay, you'd be dumb.
Your boy Jeremy Reed, Robert, he is a gun builder.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay. Interesting.
Is that it? We done? No.
Well, here's a really simple one.
All right.
Last question. Why doesn't Tom gush over how awesome Beretta PX4s are for 50 minutes?
That's on his OnlyFans.
the only
well, at this point, you really need to go talk to Keanu because he's the only person that's actively running a PX4 right now in competition.
The PX4 is great. The only issue that the PX4 suffers from is that it's owned by Beretta, and Beretta will take good ideas and not put money into them and put money into a bunch of bad ideas. Like they basically abandoned the 92 line for 20 something years. And then they'll show you 77 different 92 FSs, but they only make 3 of them. And as far as the PX4 goes, like they have some aftermarket support, but they do not put it out there for a big enough support. Like they could easily take that gun and make their own optics ready model in it, but Beretta does not sell the guns nearly that a lot of the companies that innovate frequently, Canik, Glock, SIG, and everyone else do. And so like when you get a PX4, you're buying a second one, then you'd have to get them custom milled. Then you're only running Springer plus 6s if you're going to shoot that thing and carry optics. You got to use a Ghost holster because the only one that make competition stuff for them. You have to bevel the magazines to make them work. Like the PX4 is an absolutely phenomenal, accurate, soft shooting, durable pistol. And if you only need to shoot iron sights, you can make a heck of a run at shooting iron sights. But as far as the future,
I think Keanu actually makes springs and followers that get you what 25 plus 1. In that PX4,
it's possible to do. By the size of the tube, like it's possible to do. There's just a whole lot of stuff in that gun. That gun is a whole lot of work to get to shoot carry optics, and that's the only reason why it just sits in the safe. Same with my 92.
I don't know, dude. He's. I mean, I'm not doubting anything you're saying because I actually agree with you. It's fun to see how well he actually has made that experience run for him.
The gun,
it's a great gun.
Cool.
The gun does almost nothing wrong by itself. It's very accurate. Yeah. It's extremely reliable. It's soft shooting. The parts are, you can use a lot of 92 parts. It's like it is the closest thing to a simplified Glock as a hammer fired pistol could be, and it's got a bunch of customizability built in. But like the sight dovetail cuts, they're traditional PX4. They don't work with even 92 sights, so like that sucks with the gun. And the other part is too, it's like you could do a lot of it, but the problem is too, is like you could go in, you could buy a Canik or an MOS Glock 34, and you can do anything to suit your needs.
Would you buy one and then send it off to Langdon? because Langdon can go through and soup it. If you didn't want to touch it, right, you could send it to Langdon. Langdon could. I think he does work on PX4s.
He does.
He does work on PX4s. My only issue is that a PX4, a P30, and a Beretta 92 are not $1,500 handguns.
Yeah, it's very expensive. All Langdon's work is very, very expensive.
Like, I'm not saying
it sure is nice though.
It is the best system, and it's obviously way better than Beretta system. As I found out that I couldn't hold a 0 with the Beretta system. The plates were screwed up. Like,
as JJ found out as well.
The Beretta does not. Beretta will look at the cost of what the parts are together and basically send them down to the shooter to figure out, instead of having a company that would be like, we're going to use T15s, we're going to use a 632 coarse thread, and we're going to use a steel plate, and we are going to make sure that these things fit from the factory. Beretta is not willing to do that. Beretta is in the business of winning contracts, and contracts are won by parts per unit.
Well, that's the problem, is because they lost one of their biggest contracts, and so now if they don't make a change, then functionally, what you're saying, Tom, is that in probably a decade, Beretta will cease to function, because they'll basically have done what Colt did, where they don't come out with anything new and innovative, and eventually somebody's just going to buy them out.
Well, Beretta does a good job, because a lot of the places that they sell to do not require customization, and the products are freaking awesome if they meet the criteria for the customer. Like, they don't make bad products, they just don't make products that are suitable for our market and our customization in our game.
Right.
Like, if I had to, it was like, hey, what are you doing? It's just like, well, I gotta go out there and carry this gun on the street, and I'm not allowed to carry a red dot, and I want a double action, reliable handgun. PX4 in a Safariland, you could do that, and you could have 20 years with that gun and not have a single issue with it. But the other parts of that are not. Like, why would I do that for USPA competition? Like, even if I didn't live in a world with a Glock, and if I didn't want to spend the money on a CZ, I could get a Walther PDP. I could get +3s or +4s from anybody. I could get magazines. It comes with an optics plate. It'll shoot lights out, and I can get a holster from 80% of the manufacturers out there. Why would I buy a PX4 Storm?
Right.
So that's still probably one of the best compact size pistols and one of the full size double action duty pistols ever made. But that doesn't bend everyone to its will.
Fair enough. That's it.
Thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing. Thank you for taking Classifiers seriously. I just caught up on the PARAchat, and boy, you guys like. You want my two cents?
People just burn Taylor over that.
Well, I just thought it was funny, but I
what
think,
happened?
Somebody said Classifiers didn't matter. Someone said, because you don't like Classifiers because you weren't good at them, and then people are talking about whatever. And like here's the thing about Classifiers. Classifiers are just stages. Just because you shoot one stage very well does not mean you're at the level of what you're supposed to do. And just because you shot a classifier well doesn't mean you're at the level that you think you are in your head. And when you do those stages wrong, it also doesn't mean that you're as good or as bad as you think you are. They are parts of the game. And we shoot many of them, and then that overall length shows you how good you are.
Well, how would you fix the USPSA classification system to actually make it something that reflected a shooter's thing? Because everybody you can get upset because somebody's sandbagging in this or somebody's grandbagging in that, but until we fix the classification system to accurately represent where a person is as a shooter on a revolving basis, look, anytime you show up at a major match, whoever wins basically A class, B class, C class, D class, they're always at least one class above whatever their classification says they are. That's just the way it is.
Hold on a second. Let's have the shocking revelation right here live. You're telling me the people that win their classes are their best in class?
I had to think. I'm not understanding where you're going here.
The people who win B class are the best people in B class because they're virtually A class.
Well, fundamentally, yeah, for sure.
99% of an A class shooter.
Right, but that's the thing. Shouldn't there? Go ahead, Kenny.
I'll say it's an American problem. Like IPSC and everywhere else, there is no classification.
That's my opinion.
This is an American problem. We just want handed out fucking trophies.
What you've been in this karate class for 3 years. You're now a black belt, even though you probably couldn't stand up to another black belt. Like if we lived in a world without egos, I don't think we'd find the classifier system as broken as it is, because people still make GM, people still make master, lots of people don't. And the whole point of that classification system is that since it takes it off of the highest based value of the people who do it the best, who might be the best in the sport, even if they are shot out, that percentage still moves up. And the crazy thing about it is I still see M's and GM's at the top of major matches, and I still find B's and C's and A's in the middle. And sometimes you see an M or a GM at the bottom or whatever, but mostly, if you look at the overalls, the gradient stacks pretty well in order. GM's, M's, A's, B's, sure. C's.
But, yeah, there's obviously the outliers, but normally it's...
Yeah, I think everyone feels the classification system's broken because everyone's not as good as they think they are.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think the classification system's broken because you don't have classifications that actually are shootable by indoor matches. I think that's one fundamental issue I have with it. I think that the classification system's broken in that it's not representing the vast majority of our classifiers aren't representing what we actually are doing. Some of the newer stuff is. Yeah, go ahead.
Just do Can You Count again. Just do Can You Count every single indoor match. Every single time. There's a reason
I do El Presidente every single time. Because that's what I have to do, and I can shoot it as an indoor.
I have problem people saying that classifiers don't represent our skills. What classifiers don't represent our skills?
Can you count?
TikTok.
That's 1 out of 100, and Can You Count still represents some.
You asked for it, so I gave.
You have to split, and you have to reload.
You have to have a fast draw. You have to have a fucking fast reload, and unfortunately, you gotta control the recoil. Like, is it super classifier? Fuck yeah. I hate that classifier. I've never shot it good in 20 years.
I think it's great.
It still tests some of our skills.
Well, it's like a build drill as a classifier. A build drill as a classifier skills gone up seems less and less a test of skills, but it still tests some USPSA skills. But the other part,
I don't get that, because build drill to me is still one of my 5 core fundamental drills to do.
It's like writing your name at the top of the paper. Like, we know that people who can't pass that are not smart. Like, it's question 1. Can you do that? Can you do the basic things on that? So, like, there's some things.
Well, how many stages in a USPSA match have you doing a build drill without not being a classifier? I think that's probably the argument that they're making. Now, you can say, well, a build drill applies in your ability to draw a gun fast and shoot a target quickly at a very high rate of splits and transitions is going to come into effect. 100%, I'm with you on that. I think the argument that a lot of people make is why do the classifiers not actually represent? Why are they not built like a stage? Things that you would actually shoot from that aspect.
So the only thing that's not built like a stage is movement, and that's gonna be fucked up. The only people that give a shit about that is people that are terrible shooters and good at moving. The game is silly shooting fucking game. You should be able to stand in one spot, draw the gun, and slap the trigger.
Well, the other part about classifiers is that they allow a framework for people to test things that can't be tested in stages. Shoot odd number of rounds. Shoot at targets that are much stricter or much tighter, or shoot in a way and it incentivizes people to shoot faster. But I think people often forget the reverse is there are stages that you are good at and there are stages that you aren't good at. It doesn't mean that those stages are bullshit.
Yeah. I still think in a perfect world that the entire classification system needs to have a sunset period on every single classifier ever created. Give it 10 years, give it 15 years, I don't care what, but give it 10 years, and then that classifier is done. It can no longer be shot. Let's just keep them. Let's just constantly make it renewable. I mean, just brand new classifiers, just consistently. I'd like to see that, and then more indoor stuff.
That would be good, but I think it's just the hard part is actually coming up with new classifiers, because that's just work, and that's more work for the org, and the org's not doing.
The org's not willing to do anything.
Well,
we'll come up with new classifiers and then set a bar on those new classifiers.
What do you mean?
We'll set what the percentages are for what divisions.
How do you set that?
Well,
bar?
that's the problem, because
that's the problem,
IDPA
right?
runs in that problem.
Every 10 years, you gotta.
Because the quality of the shooters we have now is so vastly improved over the quality of the shooters we had 10 years ago. If we had a fixed bar like IDPA does, it's like everyone's a master. Congratulations, everyone's a master. Doesn't everyone feel good now?
Yeah.
It's like, but when everyone's a master, no one is. Just get rid of the classification system. I've never sat there and gone like, the people who beat me, I'm never like, oh wow, a bad shooter beat me. Like, it's just like, I don't like, there's people's names I hear and I couldn't tell if they were A class, or like some people will surprise you. You'll be like, you must be an M or you must be a GM, and they go, no, I'm a B class. So you could just go like, well, then he's the best B class there is. He's top in class. But if you didn't have the classification system, what would it change except for making you feel good?
Yeah, I mean, I think classifiers are stupid, but I think that they're important skills to test.
I agree. I mean, I think they're great. I think they're great skills to test. My concern is that so many of these classifiers, it's that two-part thing. I actually think they've been shot out, and I also think that there's too few that could be successfully shot on an indoor range. That bothers me because it basically, like, of all the classifiers, I mean, Kenny, you've seen it. I can only like run like this Absolutely. Many, and it's frustrating to me. I just don't like that.
I'll agree with you on the indoor thing. Like, there's not very many that you can do. As far as being shot out, I disagree with. In the last 3 years, I think I've only shot 2 classifiers that were not in GM with my limited gun. With the open gun, I'm either high master or shooting GM scores with a gun that I'm not very good with. So I'm not sure they're actually shot out.
Okay.
Or people, like Tom said, are people having an ego and think that they should be shooting something that they don't have the ability to shoot yet.
I've never complained about a classifier being shot out that I've done well in. Do you
I see what you're saying.
I see a strict correlation between my own and personal biases, that I'm a regular human being competing in the sport, and then I apply that to others. And so my faults can become other people's faults. And so, like, every classifier I've hundoed, not shot out.
Yeah.
I'm just top of the game.
Everybody says El Prez is shot out.
No, it's not.
I know the person that has the highest in limited on that, and I can still run that score over and over again.
That's good to know. That's actually really interesting. That's good to know. Somebody actually put I can't remember who it was, but somebody actually put together, like, these are the classifiers if you want to advance. Like, these are classifiers to shoot that offer you the greatest statistical likelihood of advancing your classification.
Well,
I just don't. I mean, I fundamentally don't care anymore. I just don't. I mean, I'm at the point in my career where whether I go up or down, I just don't care. I'm there to have fun right now, which is fine. I mean, honestly, that's my commitment level at this point in life.
But the one thing about like those classifiers, like Bang and Clang and something like that, it's one of those.
I like Bang and Clang.
It's one of those. It's one of those classifiers. It's just like, because of the 2 poppers and the way the paper setup is, like, it's kind of hard humanly possible to do that any faster. It's not that the floor is so low on Bang & Clang, is like the roof is not that high. So it's just like the difference between doing a 313 and a 257 mathematically can get you pretty far up the classification chain into A or M. And then all it takes for you is to be like 1 good draw, 3 good transitions, and a couple good splits, like just on the whim, and you're there. So it's not that the classifier is broken, it's just easier. There's less things to go wrong that can luck you into a higher score.
So then the opinion of the panel, there's nothing wrong with the classification system fundamentally.
Sure. I don't really care about it anymore. I think people put way too much effort into it.
Yeah.
I actually agree with Taylor on this. Taylor's given up on it, on the classifier system. He's worried about his match scores, and he has shot some amazing majors this year.
Mm-hmm. He's a fantastic shooter.
I don't think I've gone into a classifier in the past 3 years which was just like, I want to advance. Every classifier I have shot is like, this is part of the match. I wish to beat people. I wish to beat people more than I wish to have the letter by my name. And guess what happens when I just shoot a regular classifier the way I want to? I get a A or a low M in a match because I think I'm an A or low M.
I kind of just think what Kenny mentioned earlier, we should just toss them. I mean, I like the classifiers, and I think it's kind of fun to test yourself and to see how you rank on a national scale. But at the same time, it's like, I kind of just would rather say percentages, and it's like, oh, well, Tom's in the top 5 every single match,
and that
means Tom is good.
You could break down trophies. Whatever. You could break down trophies in the percentages, like first in the 70% range, with 79.95. It's this person, that person. Like
but that at that point, that's a rose by any other name, right? It's still functionally identified.
But it stays. It changes per match because your classification doesn't go with you.
That becomes interesting because now you have a G that had a shitty match, but he still kicked the shit out of the C class guys, and so
top 80-something%. C class.
There's a scalable set. Like, I don't care if they got rid of the classifier system, but I'm already there. But I also understand for B class shooters, you're giving them something to shoot for.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I said, like, I'm okay tossing it, but I also understand for the lower class guys, like, having those trophies is very important for something to work for, to give them something to keep striving for.
Yeah, and sure, some of those guys, when they get that D class trophy, it's the world to them, and you're like, oh, that's stupid. You shouldn't care about that. Yeah, but for some of those guys, it means everything, and that little stupid ribbon, winning that
C
keeps
class
them in the game so much longer than many other things would. And you're like, well, if that's the only thing that keeps them in the game, well, fuck you. Okay.
Oh,
if I can find a way to keep people playing this game longer, I'll give them the fucking trophy.
Yeah. No, and that's
this conversation before. That's why I'm also okay with like random prize draw tables.
Yeah.
I said that wrong, but you know what I mean? Because most high-end shooters, we don't need anything coming off the prize table. We're going to sell it to the lower class guys. They might actually need some of that shit.
Winning C class might be the
I
highlight
did like my
of your
wire
shooting
brush.
career.
Yeah, Tom.
That's the one thing is about the prize table. The prize table, like if you've had a bad match and you get called up late to the prize table, God, it's insult to injury. Man, there's some like, thanks for the hops cap. I'll take my terrible finish and a baseball hat I didn't walk because that
was Utah State this year though, Tommy. It was like at the end of it. I mean, it was a very, very small prize table compared to Utah, but there was a lot of guns.
Yep.
There was a lot of flipping guns. But as far as the prize table is concerned, basically probably the last quarter of the people that would have walked through that, they walk through the trailer and like, well, there's some stickers and some ketchup packets of oil.
I got a brush.
If you don't walk it, you're a jerk. Because they called you up to give you something.
I didn't walk it.
I find if they call your name and everyone's looking at you and you go like this, like I would feel it'd be like, here, sir, here's this taco that we got for you because we were thinking of you, and I'd be like, I don't eat that.
Tommy, I don't think that at all. Honestly, no. There's been so many times where, like what Kenny said, I've got all the stuff I need. I don't need another bag. But you know what? Some kid might. Somebody else might want it.
I'll take it.
I've done that a lot. Like, there's nothing I need. What can I give to somebody else? Grab it, walk up to a kid. Here you go, bud.
Here you go, kid. Yeah.
I'm almost at the point with prize tables, and this is coming from match directing, where it's just like, I don't even want any of the little things. All I want is like 10, 20 guns. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah, so that's a double-edged sword, right? Because that match director and top-end guys, hell yeah. Lower class guys,
but it's still
what they want.
It would still be raffled. It would still just be raffled off, and so I mean, everybody has the same chance, random draw. But I just, from a match director standpoint,
hold on a second. This is
the worst part.
This is where
prize table.
This is where the GMs kind of start to get mad. It's like, wait a second, but if it's really nice, first pick. That's what we got.
I gave away my gun last year.
Because some of those high-end guys, they spend a lot of money to go shoot those matches, and they need to recoup some of that money for that $650. So they got to be able to sell that. Okay.
What they bring to the match, when they bring to the match in the draw. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for subscribing. We love all you guys for doing that on this 2-hour episode. Well, it's probably going to come in a little while. We chat a little bit before.
It'll be about an hour and a half because the Patreon got like 30 minutes out of it.
A little long in the tooth. But anyway, thanks for listening, downloading, subscribing. I would like to remind everybody that Jared Stepp literally said the words only 7,000 to 8,000.
Yeah.
Only. So on that note,
it's cheap.
Jared lives a different life than we do.
Yeah,
it's that shooting on Friday government dole. For Robert Wyatt, Kenny Terry, and the broken fingered Jared Stepp, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the Sea of Life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Toot toot.
Toot toot.